Hi, I'm Kim Marshall, and thanks for being here today on Starting School with Roots and Wings. I have some content for you today about early writing, and we're going to be talking about this in two phases. So first part will be about hand strengthening activities, and then later I'll get into sort of what you can expect to see as your child puts things down on paper. So writing is a way that a child will express themselves, and according to Reggio Emilia, there's 100 ways, 100 languages of the child, but this is an important one. It's something that gives them a lot of instant gratification, a lot of satisfaction to see their work on paper. A lot of children have, well, all children have amazing ideas in their head, and as the child develops and as they grow their understanding of letters and numbers, they want to be able to put that down and anchor it down on paper and record their ideas. So we don't want there to be a discrepancy there between their knowledge and their output. So it's important that they are ready to be writers. And we're going to think of this as a continuum, just like any skill, right? Just like think of your child when they were a baby. They're not going to crawl before they sit. They're not going to walk before they stand, okay? So we do need to think about writing like sequential steps, and they do move through these gradually and slowly and at their own pace. The school environment will definitely inspire them and push them to new goals, but it's ultimately up to the child, and it's ultimately up to their readiness. So with any academic skill, I'm going to emphasize that their interest is going to be the most important part. You never want to ask a child to do something they're not interested in, or encourage them to spend a lot of time that they're not interested in on a topic. They're probably not ready. If they're not showing interest, they're probably not ready. It doesn't mean you don't want to immerse them with a language-rich environment or a print-rich environment, because they will be ready, and it's going to look slow and it's going to look gradual. So when they're showing interest, that's when you want to sort of move them along. So that's one way that they're going to be able to express themselves. And with any focused activity, if you are working at home with your child on this activity, any focus time is going to be maximum 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to encourage you, whether this is something that your child needs more work and development in, or if it's something that your child is doing already independently, you just want to supplement what's happening at school, you can weave that in whenever you want. But if this is something that your child needs extra time in, maybe your teacher has expressed a need, for home support, then maximum 5 to 10 minutes a day is going to go a lot further than 30 minutes on Saturday, okay? It's just like muscle building. Just like if you are at the gym, slow and steady, you can't do it all quickly, and that's the way you're going to get the most success. That's the way you're going to build the best muscles, the fine motor muscles in their hand, but also that's the best thing for the brain too. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is honoring handedness. So handedness, your child is scribbling or writing or drawing, and potentially they're flipping between their two hands. So if they have a crayon, they might be sometimes coloring or writing or drawing with their left, sometimes their right. So they have an established handedness. No problem. You don't need to push this along. You don't need to worry. It will settle by the end of the 4th year. That's typical. So if you're past that mark and your child's still flipping, you might want to talk to the teacher about that, but I've never seen a child that isn't developmentally ready to sort of establish their handedness by the end of their 4th year. So in every class, I'm going to have definitely 1 or 2 left-handed kids. That's just sort of what happens, and that's to be expected. I want you to honor their handedness. If they are a left-handed child, Don't encourage them to be a right-handed child. I have heard and seen parents try to do this before. It's definitely not recommended. This is their neural pathways. This is the way that they are wired. So you're going to confuse things in the process if you try to change what feels natural and best for them. Okay, so honor-handedness. I also want to talk to you about grip today. Okay, so I'm going to use a pen just so that you can see a little bit better, but in the early stages and babies, toddlers, you're going to see them holding with a fisted grip. Okay, and transitioning into preschool, you might see something like this, and eventually it gets to tripod. So tripod is the 3 fingers at the base of the pencil. That's going to be the most control. That's a child who has fine motor development, okay? So if your child is on the right track, if they're in kindergarten and they're making marks on the page, you can be paying attention to the tension, the pressure on the page. Are their lines straight? Are they wiggly and wobbly? Are they very light? Are they very dark? Okay, we want something in between. We want something that has control, that feels, the way that you would write, not too light, not too dark. If the child is having trouble making a mark on a page, that's a good indication that they're going to need more time, more exposure, more opportunities for fine motor control. So thinking about the grip and thinking about the pressure, they're going to be writing marks, and they're going to be wanting to experiment with letters and numbers. So the size and the formation will come with handwriting instruction or printing instruction. The program that I'm trained in and the program that I'm familiar with is called Handwriting Without Tears. If you're an educator, you've probably heard of this. It was recently renamed Learning Without Tears. I'm a big fan of their approach. I've used it in regular class settings. I've used it in special education, and it's fantastic. It really reaches the learner on a multi-sensory approach, and it's dynamic. It can be done in age-appropriate ways. There's music, there's movement involved. It goes from gross motor to fine motor. So I really like it. It was written, or the program was built by an OT, an occupational therapist. So that's definitely someone who is an expert in their field and knows handwriting and knows what is developmentally appropriate for preschool. There's a like a Get Set for School program, and then there's a kindergarten program. It goes all the way up to grade 3 with handwriting, cursive, and then typing skills, so it's comprehensive. Anyways, the reason I bring it up is because they really believe in small tools for small hands. So one of the things that they use that I have in my classroom, I also use at home with my daughter, is flip crayons. So these flip crayons have 2 sides. What makes them unique is that they're very small, and the child can manipulate the 2 colors by flipping back and forth. So that alone is going to increase hand strength. I love crayons. Crayons are the most appropriate tool for a kindergarten child. I'm not a big fan of markers. I'm not a big fan of pencil crayons. Those are special. Those can be used for certain things at certain times. But there's something unique about a crayon, and the wax that a crayon has really, it takes a bit of work, okay? So if you have paper and you want your child to make a mark, they're going to have to work at it, okay? And that's good. You want the drag, you want the tension of the wax on the paper, because that is really what's going to give their body a lot of feedback. It's going to reinforce the muscle memory connection between the hand and the brain. So you want them doing lines, you want them doing curves. We'll get into this later, but the uppercase alphabet, which is something that we instruct in junior kindergarten, it's made up of entirely lines and curves, okay? So big line, big curve, little curve. So if your child is just learning to make marks on paper, that is a really great place to start, okay? Crayons on paper, lines and curves. Don't worry about coloring books per se where they have to stay in the line. That's sort of next level. A great activity to build hand strength and get them working on paper is just to put out a big poster, butcher block paper, a roll of white paper, and get them doodling and get that down there on the floor with them. Use the crayon. You know, it's a low pressure situation. They don't have to stay in the lines. They don't have to create anything. Just be making marks on paper. That is going to strengthen the small muscles in the hand. Your child needs strong muscles in their hand so that they can print, so that they can make their marks on paper, okay? If this is difficult, if they're not showing interest, it's probably hard for them. So if they are a child that doesn't like coloring, they're not going to be getting the practice. They might not be doing it because it feels difficult. So they need lots of Play-Doh, they need clips, they need scissors. Get them cutting, get them building things with their hands. Small things, tweezers. If you Google fine motor activities, there's so many. Pinterest is overloaded. I can link some stuff up in the comments below. But I'm a big fan of using safe children's size scissors in the home. So don't be afraid, moms and dads, about letting your child cut. It doesn't need to be a craft. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just a big cutting bowl or a big cutting bin. Give them a baker's bowl. Give them some scrap paper, some newspaper, some toy magazines, some grocery store flyers, and just, you know, let them chop away at that paper. Let them make a mess. I am a fan of these scissors. These are called loop scissors. These are going to be great because you can't really hold them the wrong way. You can get these at Scholar's Choice for about $4, and they're great because they really build hand strength, and they're very easy to hold. They're very easy to use. If you do have a left-handed child, no problem. If you do have a left-handed child and they're using regular children's scissors, you're going to have to get them left-handed scissors. So just be aware of that. But lots of practice, scissors, Play-Doh, crayons. Those are the things you should be thinking about as we work up to becoming a writer, all right? So in part 2, I'm going to talk to you about once they do put something on paper, what that might look like, how we can help them write their names, write words, write sentences, right? That's something that we're building up to. In grade 1, they might be writing a sentence. So again, there's a bit of continuum there. So I'll help you decide where is your child now and how can we get them to the next stage. Thanks.